Welcome to this week's episode of Clear for Takeoff. No, Fearless Flight Live. I can't believe that I did that. I almost kicked myself out of the meeting there. Anyway, Fearless Flight Live, our weekly show on Facebook for anybody who's afraid to fly or has issues about flying. You know what? I was reading something that says, "How do you know if you're afraid to fly? If you're altering your behavior because of flying, you're afraid to fly. If you just go to the airport but you still fly and you're anxious, and you're not white knuckled, then you're a nervous flyer." So I used to always think that's who I would be dealing with, but not so much. Pretty much the people that we get are people that are either avoided at all costs or white knucklers. And so if you're one of those, you're definitely in the right place. If you know somebody, you're in the right place. Or if you just like to talk about aviation and the airline stuff like that, and there's a lot to talk about with the delays and the reroutes going on right now. So this is also the right place. Tonight, first thing we want to do is thank everybody who's joined the Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather private Facebook group. Over 1,000 and climbing, and that's what I call critical mass. So you're always going to find somebody that's willing to engage you in all that, and that's we're still getting a lot of participation, a lot of comments. And so please, if you haven't joined, go to our Facebook page, and if you like us, not like us, but if you like us, in the Facebook terminology, then you'll get alerts, Dieter tells me, when we go live with any information, and you won't miss out. And then also, if you're over there, that's where you can join the Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather. Okay. And this week, we're going to talk about the success story. We got a guest here, Colleen O'Connor. And she made a trip to Ireland with a name like that. You would expect her to have something going on in Ireland there. And so she's with us. She's consented to come on. And we're going to talk about a surprise 301 that we're actually going to see if there's any interest out there, because I've had a couple people ask me about putting a 301 together for a special destination, and we'll hold that off until we get Colleen. So right now I'll invite Colleen to come in here. And anyways, if you got comments or questions, please don't hesitate to put them down there. And if you watch this live, and certainly even if you're watching the replay, then be sure to leave us a message or a question down there. Welcome, Colleen. Nice to see you.
Captain Ron. Thank you.
We've talked a lot in the last. When did you first? When did we first start talking?
I was just thinking about that. I met you, well, not in person, but this was years ago. It was before Zoom. I have had, I'd say most of my adult life, fear of flying. And at the time you had, it was a phone conference,
Oh yeah, webinars. We used to do Saturday morning webinars, I think.
Right. And it was you, and there was another gal, myself. And then you sold the CDs to
right. That was the old days when it was called Chicken Soup for the Soul. Yeah, exactly.
So I had used your CD, which was really about mindfulness and letting go. And so I don't know. I think that might have been 25 years ago. Oh, that was a long.
It could have been. It was at least 20, probably.
Maybe 20.
Yeah.
So then within this last year, I knew I had a trip to Ireland coming up. I was going over for a wedding. I was wanting to go, but I'll admit I was very fearful, reluctant to go. And so I Googled you and found that you had the 201 cleared for takeoff class. And I thought, okay, to get myself on the plane, I need to do this. And I'm so glad that I did. You really gave me the confidence to let go of the fear and go ahead and get on the plane. As we've spoken before, I had a conflict the night of the webinar. I don't know if it's called a webinar, but the class.
Sure. Yeah.
All the everything in the portal I was able to watch. And then we had a phone conversation via Zoom before I took off for Ireland.
Right.
And, I have to say a couple things really helped me the most. And it was all of your talk about mindfulness and how really our fears are up here and how they can just generate and grow to fears that aren't even realistic.
Right.
And I listened to your mindfulness, I don't know what to call it.
Well, I think you're talking about the PMP 101, we call it.
Okay.
I can't even think of the member, which is the name of it.
Yeah.
But it has to putting mindfulness into practice. I think that's why we call it PMP. Yeah. Yeah.
So
and we just try to do not so much, every culture, every religion has a mindfulness type of practice, whether it's prayer, whether it's full-blown meditation, or whatever. And so, a lot of people get confused and they think they got to get a new religion or something. You don't have to do that. All you got to do is just pay attention to where your attention is. So that's what the goal of the PMP was to give people some practice with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did listen to it prior to going to Ireland, but then just a few days before, when I was busy getting ready, I couldn't find it online. But I will. We talked, but I will find it.
Sure.
And put it on my phone. But I did subscribe to the Calm app, which really helped. And then someone through my church told me that it's called Hallow. It has meditations and prayers and
Sure.
And so I don't want to go on for too long, but prior to this flight, about 5 years ago, I went to Italy. Again, I was afraid, but I was visiting my sister and her husband there. Coming home, I really did have a scary experience of within about a minute after takeoff, the plane just shook violently and it was more than turbulence. Long story short, the captain later came on, we'd lost an engine. I later found out that it was a bird strike. And I have never been so panic stricken in my life. We had to circle for 45 minutes. We had to.
She deserves a prize too, right, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, now
we're going to do something that,
they're having a contest now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, guess what happened to me? Yeah, they're all trying to top each other.
Right. We had to do an emergency landing. Anyway, I survived it. I had a fear of getting back on the plane to get to London and then to get to LA, but I made it. But after that, I did not fly in 5 years. I didn't go up to my aunt's funeral. I didn't go to a friend's funeral. And I thought, I need to get over this. So
you were saying earlier, so you were never a fond flyer, right? Before so that was always an issue. But this thing, like so many, it was a defining event that caused your fear and to hijack your attention, and your attention just wouldn't let go after that.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And but I thought I'm gonna muster through this and go. So on the plane, I did listen to the apps that were very calming. When there was the turbulence, I did the deep breathing and just letting it go. Also, part of your 201 class, you talked about mechanics of flying. The pilots are so well.
Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to ask Eric. I'm going to ask Dieter if he can maybe put the student portal on the screen there, and we'll kind of show people what you're talking about as you go through there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna share that. Just keep talking. I will just pull it up.
I'm curious. Where did you depart from in the United States, and where did you land in Ireland?
Left LAX and landed in Dublin. It was a straight flight.
Okay, yeah. Press on.
Yeah. And so it was helpful for me to be thinking about how you were talking about the mechanics of flying and how safe these planes are and how well taken care of they are, and the pilots, how well trained they are. And I have 2 cousins who are pilots. And so I often think, well, this is their job. They've been doing it for 35, 40 years and they make it home. And so I would think about that as I flew, and
so what that is just it is paying attention to where your attention is, and if you can move it to somewhere else, like thinking about, okay, well, I have relatives that fly. They don't they make it back every day and whatnot. And I just want to kind of go a quick review of the module. So the module you were talking about was the second module 2, which is the basics of flight. The first module is about psychology of fear and the psychology of fear flying, and how your attention is the boss of your brain. Your attention determines where your brain is going to go and where your thoughts are going to go. So then there's that, the basics of flight. The third one is the coping and skills and strategies. And then the fourth module is putting it all together. And now it is all up in the cloud, because even as you did it, I had live webinars once a week. And so that's what you were talking about before. You couldn't make those, but now everything is up in the cloud. So you not only can you get it when you want it, but you can get it more than once if you want. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead. Yeah.
No. So, right. So those different modules really did help, and especially that. So the mindfulness really helped, the mechanics of the plane and the pilots, and just really recognizing that I live with too many fears, and I just needed to let go of those fears and trust more. And I like to pray a lot, so there was a good amount of praying on the flight.
Sure.
And that helped me too. And
Sure.
I just I have to say, at a certain point, I was able to just sit back and relax.
Yeah.
And
were you surprised? Were you surprised that you could relax?
Yes, because you said something that was very interesting. I think this was in our phone conversation, that our minds really can't, you could say it better than I do, sustain being in a state of fear for that long. And so I thought, okay, if it's bumpy, I might be afraid for a little bit, but that's not going to be my whole 10 hours.
Yeah. And because it's similar in that, it's a biological reaction when we're under stress. It produces chemistry, and cortisol mainly, which produces adrenaline. So it's somewhat akin to being in a weight room and you're pressing weights. You can only do that so long until your muscles have to recover. And it's because of the adrenaline that goes through you. So that's why I say, you're not going to be able to be wired the whole time, on a, how many hours was it? How long was the flight from LA?
It was about 9 hours going and 10 and a half coming home.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And were you one of those people that flying was bad enough, but the longer the flight was, the more it kind of piqued you, or was it just any flight in general for you?
Pretty much any flight in general. I
didn't
particularly want to go on, but I'll say this there, and I think I mentioned this too in our phone conversation. There's something about a long flight that after a while, it just felt really smooth. Whereas sometimes if I just fly from, say, Orange County to Oakland, I feel like I can feel the turbulence more. I don't know if we're not going as high, or what, maybe it's the mountains.
It would be one thing. It would be just common to the airspace at the time, if we're just some turbulence, stuff like that. And probably, as you said, kind of the antithesis, you're a little more queued up and it's a shorter flight. So, so it represents a larger percentage of the flight, if you will. I just wanted to say, you and I were talking about how you weren't aware that now we have this thing called the Zenler app. And you can get it either on, if you have an iPhone, you can get it in the App Store, or if you have an Android, you can get it in the Google Play Store. And I just wanted to call your attention to that. So now you can get that, and you can actually load it onto your portable device, and you can watch or participate in the course through your iPhone instead of having to go to the website.
Okay.
And it's really handy compared to what it was. Yeah.
And so after you go into that, you just log in?
Exactly. When you get the Zenler app, now when you log in to the app itself, it will come up. You know what? I could probably share the page here. Maybe.
Yeah, and if Ron cannot share the page, it's really simple, and that's what we love. Like the link that you saw in the student portal of the 201 takes you straight to the App Store. Depending on whether you have an iPhone or an Android, and then from there you get an email and there's a code. And once you've put the code in, the app kind of recognizes all the courses that you have with us. And then
Oh, we got lucky.
there you go. First try
Great.
too, Ron.
Yeah,
Got it.
no,
Amazing.
watch out. Something's gonna go wrong tonight because
Careful.
I got, so when you log in, Colleen, you'll get this page here. So if you have the Fearless Flight Kit, you'll be able to access the Fearless Flight Kit. And you can see there's the modules and all the things there. If you were talking about the PMP, the mindfulness, you
Right.
can log in, it'll bring you up in that app. And so you can get the
Great.
meditation. And when there are downloads in there, you'll also have the option of downloading them, so you won't have to do it's more cumbersome on an iPhone to put files onto your phone. And then the 201 itself, you go right there to the 201 and there you are. And you can go through the entire course, and you can see those little circles there. It has a relative proportion of how far you are along. So there's a progress device there as well. So anyway,
Great.
it's
Thank you.
it's finally, I mean, it's been a long time since we've been trying to find something like that. So we're really excited about that.
Oh,
Okay.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I won't talk much longer, but one thing I wanted to say was, so when I made it, back to Los Angeles, I knew this coming August, I have a nephew getting married up in Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
And prior to going to Ireland, I thought, no, I'm not going to, I can drive. I mean, it's like a 12-hour.
Sure. Right.
Probably. And then I got home and I said, you know what? I made it to Ireland. I can make it to Tahoe.
Good for you.
So I booked a flight, Long Beach to Reno, and that's when I thought I'm going to find out how to get your mindfulness on my phone.
Good for you.
And
Good for
so I feel like I have to keep flying, because if I don't do that, the fears may set back in.
That's all true. And if you drive to Tahoe and back out of Southern California, the fuel costs alone will kill you.
Yeah, right. That's
Yeah.
true.
So on your way over, were there any challenges in particular that, challenging moments?
The way over had more turbulence than coming
Okay.
home. Coming home was relatively smooth.
Okay.
And so, so it was bumpy. The pilot was very good and alerted us, we have some turbulence coming up. And at one point he said they're going to go on for about 2 hours. And I thought, oh no, it wasn't that long, but I found it helpful when he let us know that they were coming. And
that's super. Were you able to meet the pilots, just out of curiosity?
that was one thing you suggested, and I really wanted to. The way I entered the plane, I just wasn't at like right up front, like where the pilots would be. I should have asked, but it was such a packed flight and they're trying to get people on.
Yeah, it's intimidating. One of the things I will ask you. So when you boarded, I'm assuming there were 2 aisles in the airplane rather than a single aisle. So it was a wide body airplane. And when you board some of those, depending on what you probably boarded further in more a mid cabin.
Exactly.
Must have been, yeah.
Let me ask, when you said it was out of the way. So when you came on board, you probably just couldn't look left and see the cockpit immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that can be more intimidating because it does require you to traverse a little bit of distance. You have to go down the aisle a little bit towards the cabin. So wide bodies are a little bit more intimidating to do that. When some people, it's one thing to be and you have all this anticipatory anxiety before they fly. It's another when they get to their destination and it ruins their trip because they're worried about coming home. Did you find that you had intrusive thoughts when you were there on the ground, or were you able to cope better thinking about not worrying about your flight home?
I actually had those fears prior to going, that once I get there, I'm going to be worried about coming back.
Sure.
But it wasn't that bad. I knew I'd have some trepidation, but I just thought, well, I need to get back. So I have to get on this flight. And it like I said, it was a smooth flight. I sat next to a nice gentleman, and when we hit some turbulence, I admitted that, oh, I have fear of flying. And he said, oh, I do too. So it made me feel more
That's
comfortable.
funny.
And
Yeah.
I told him about your course.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That, and that's one of the, I can't tell you how many times I tell people, you just share that with people casually next to you and,
Yeah.
say, not to worry, but I get a little nervous sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And more often than not, people will say, yeah, I'm not so good with it myself. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
anyway,
So
yeah.
I didn't
So,
quit.
so did you feel like the course itself helped you prepare?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll back up. Oh gosh, maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. Oh, I did fly within the last 5 years. Now that I think of it, my niece got married back in Rhode Island. And the night before I was a wreck and I almost didn't get on the plane the next day.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I thought, I don't want to be like that again. I don't want to be the night before having serious second thoughts. So taking your course, going through all the modules, helped me be more at peace, packing and getting to the airport and going through security and all the things you have to do.
Yeah.
So I
And
was.
you were really diligent. I mean, we see this. We can actually see when people access the course. We can't tell where they're at or how long they're on a particular thing. Well, we can to some degree, but just talking to you and I can't emphasize to people out there that might be watching. It is a contact sport, if you will. You have to do something, and I think for most people, if you have an anxiety about flying or anticipatory anxiety about anything for that matter, it's like, what do I do? I can't bring an airplane home with me and practice taxiing around the neighborhood or anything like that. So it's really a struggle for the mind to anticipate or to think about what can I do in advance, but you can do things in advance. And that's what you did, so you should definitely pat yourself on the back and say, way to go, Colleen, because
Well,
yeah,
thank you, Captain
yeah,
Rock.
you exhibited a lot of the concerns that people that I've worked with in the past have. It wasn't a minor thing for you, and it certainly was on top of that, a really bad experience when you went to Italy that time. So congratulations.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
helping me get there and
Yeah.
get home.
Yeah.
That I so appreciate it.
Do you have some people over there on the Emerald Isle, Colleen?
Well, all of my great grandparents are from Ireland, so there are some relatives, and my sister and her husband met up with some. I wasn't there for that part of the trip, but I have good friends who are Irish and live there, and so that's why we were there for the wedding.
Oh, good. We were joking before you came on.
Oh,
Colleen O'Connor, and she went to Ireland. Well, what a guest.
it was
And if
great.
we were any good, we do a good Irish impression there, but it
Well,
wouldn't do it
thank
justice.
you so
Yeah.
much for all of you who put this together.
You're entirely welcome. The last thing it was, one of the things that people say when they watch somebody like you is say, well, she really wasn't, as bad as I am. What do you
Okay.
think about that? What do you think if somebody were back there saying that?
I would say I was pretty bad. My family and friends know me well. I mean, a lot of things I've missed. A good friend, her daughter got married in Montana, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't want to fly there. And so I found myself 2 funerals I didn't go to, a friend's daughter's wedding.
Sure.
And I thought, I can't keep living my life in fear and limiting my possibilities to what I can drive to.
Yeah.
So I just, yeah. So I know it's everyone's experience is a little bit different. Some might be more fearful than I am, some less, but I was up there with
Yeah.
having a lot of anxiety of getting on a plane. I would say, I agree with you. I think it's helpful when you do meet the pilot. Sometimes in the past, or at times in the past when I have flown and I could go in and say
Yeah.
hello, that was helpful.
And you should be able to when you're on the way to Reno. You'll probably
Yeah.
be on a narrow body airplane with just the one aisle and board
Right.
close to the cockpit there. Well, again, congratulations and thanks for sharing it. I mean, that's the hardest part, I think, is coming on here and looking the rest of the world in the face, and I really admire you for doing that. So
Okay.
thanks for taking the time
Thank
to
you
do
for
that.
your
right?
help.
And
Okay.
for anybody who's in the 201 course, our next Colleen is consented to come back, and she's going to be our special guest during the next monthly coaching webinar that we're going to have on the 21st of July. So, okay, any questions or comments, Dieter?
No, not here in on Facebook, but there is a question, and Colleen, maybe you can speak to that. Somebody said, I'm terrified for flying over water for such a long time. Was that at all part of your fear? And if so, how did you deal with it?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I'd say for me, it wasn't just water. It was just being up in the air. I have a niece who's like that. She lives in Chicago. She doesn't mind flying to Chicago, but doesn't want to fly, but she's done it to Hawaii.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't just the water. I mean, it was even over land. And one thing that I found is interesting on a long flight, the seat in front of you, there's a map and you can track. It shows where the plane is. That was interesting. I will say that once, let's say we're coming back from Ireland and we've crossed over the pond and we were edging towards the United States, I started feeling a little safer. I don't know why. I mean, if the plane go down, whether it's water or land, that's not a good situation. But I guess I felt, okay, we're getting closer to home, and I felt better then.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
that's what the brain does, right? It's like if you go into a dark room or a lit room, you know there's a little bit more room for anticipatory anxiety when the dark room is dark. It just we're creatures of habit, and part of our habits are the way we think. So yeah, that's not surprising. But anyway, yeah. Well, good for you. Good for you. And go ahead, Eric or Dieter. Did you have another?
No. I think it was just a good segue that Colleen mentioned Hawaii there.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know where this is going to go, but I am going to try to, let's see if I can get this up on the screen. And I got a couple of things I wanted to share. For those of it, and I don't know whether Tom's following us tonight or not, but we'll see.
I didn't see him jump up.
Okay.
That means he's not there.
Okay.
Pardon me, Captain Ron, do you want me to stop my video and mute myself and you go on for the rest of the class?
You can stay with us. Yeah, if you want to just hang in there
I'll
with us.
skip it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll exit out of the video. Okay.
Yeah, and we're going to say goodbye to you before we leave here, and thank you once again for doing that. Okay.
Thanks.
So now I've got to. Okay, I'm looking at. I got to find the screen that this is going to appear on. Number
Had it up
2.
early.
And I don't like what number 2 is. Okay, here we go. Number 1. I need to be on number 1. All right, and let me know if you're looking at the slide with Tom.
Yeah.
Please make it be. All right.
Yeah.
So there he is. For anybody who's been following us for the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've got this guy definitely falls into the category of someone who had to be faking it, because a year ago when he flew with me the first time and a couple other people, he just wasn't liking it at all. 3 times he called me specifically and said, "That's it. I'm not doing this anymore." And he had a breakthrough about 2 months ago, and he's a flying fool now. And Tom is from Poland. He just went to visit his family, that was really what he was working towards. He hadn't seen them in a number of years. And then he came back, and his mom and dad flew over and visited him. So this is a group on the right. There is yours truly and my faithful dog there, and Tom's wife and his mom and dad there, and then Tom and I on the left. And they came over, they went to the Grand Canyon, and just make it kind of, in line with what's going on out there. This was, I think, a week ago last Friday night, and they got caught up in that chaos. They were riding Southwest back to LA from Phoenix, and they had a 9 o'clock flight, and they ended up going at 2:30 in the morning. So we were just kind of the industry news there. Eric and I were talking about a little bit beforehand, how it's, it's apparently everywhere. I've been reading articles about Europe having similar problems over there. I guess the baggage system at Heathrow was out of service for 3 days, and you can imagine the number of bags that might have accumulated over there. Anyway, so that's so congratulations again to Tom, and our hearts go out to him, and congratulations again. Okay, So 301 to Hawaii. I've had a couple of people that have been fans for a long time said, I'm still a little nervous about going to Hawaii. So we're actually thinking about trying to put together a 301 class for Hawaii. This would be really, 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 well, maybe not that bad, but it's going to be complicated because first of all, we got to have a group of people that want to go on the same day. They got to have, and we're not just going to, Eric was joking with me, he said, how long are you going to have the layover in Hawaii? No, we're going to
almost all the way in. I said, now
Yeah.
walk around for 90 minutes and eat lunch and come back.
Exactly. So we're going to
almost agreed to me with me.
Yeah, we're going to try to. So I just went on Southwest because they do that. And I read where one of the things I've ridden them over there one time. It's cheap, inexpensive, but they didn't have any stuff for any charge ports for your USB and all that. But they're coming out. I heard they're buying new airplanes and they're putting that kind of equipment on there. Not that would be a vehicle. So this is an idea. And if you look at the date up there, this is for November of this year. And you can just take a look at here. If you've not played around on looking for fares, or particularly Southwest, they have what they call a low fare calendar. And this means that on the 1st, I just arbitrarily picked that date. It happens to be a Tuesday. That was the lowest day in the month that I could find. And then I was trying to get one where a week later, you can see on the 8th, it's $219. So you can see when you get coming on the return flight after Thanksgiving, look what happens to those fares. $776 on the 27th, on the 28th, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do is Dieter and I, and probably even Eric's going to get involved. We're going to try to put together a questionnaire to see if we could put a group together of at least 10 people that would like to do that. And we would actually put together a 301 class going over there. We would have some flexibilities. We could even look at hotels and whatnot for that. And these are some of the considerations. We'd have to have 10 people minimum if we do the group thing with Southwest. Now we could do what we normally do in the 301, and that is have everybody buy their fare individually. And there's some advantages of that, but I won't take up time doing that tonight. If we do the group, once we commit once I tell them we're going to do it, then we have to have within, I think, 10 days, we have to put a deposit down, $50 per person. And then we have to make the payment in full no later than 45 days prior to the actual date of departure. And what came to mind first was like a single destination, Phoenix to Honolulu. Eric said, how about Maui? We went over, and sure enough, they have one nonstop flight out of Hawaii, or out of Phoenix that goes to Maui every day. And then we'll try to structure this so we could all stay on the same island destination, or we could have an option where we go into Honolulu, for example, and then you can take Southwest down to the Big Island or Maui or over to Kauai, one of those things. Hotels, we'd probably even put that in the package. Southwest does have a connection with hotels and whatnot there. The advantage of that is if you have a Southwest credit card, or you're just using Southwest, if you stay in a hotel and you book it through them, you get points for that as well that you could apply to future flights. Okay. And then the origin, we might be able to, have a group that part of us are going to launch out of Phoenix, and we could find one of their flights that go to San Diego and then over, or San Francisco over. We could find something else. We might be able to do that. So we got a lot of possibilities. We're going to try to collect some data on that from you all and see if we have enough interest. It'll be a lot of fun. It's something I wanted to do because ultimately I'd like to do one to Europe as well, put a group together. And what we would do, we would have at least one webinar leading up to this. And when we got over there, we'd have a little debrief when we landed, and then a little pre-brief on the way home, and then come home and have some fun in the meantime. I mean, after all, that's why we want to fly some places, because, that's the whole point of taking an airplane somewhere. So much for that. Let me close out.
So I love it. Tracy said, I'm in. I love it, Tracy.
All right. So
Very cool.
obviously, if you're retired like me, you probably got more flexibility. If you got a family, it might be harder. So we'll try to survey and see if we could find a date. And you can see my focus was try to do it before the holiday season, because that's the peak time in Hawaii, as it is with a lot of places.
And I also want to say thanks, Don, for Don just shared a link, mentorpilot.com.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which actually, interesting enough, last week, Tracy was on the coaching call, the 201 webinar. And I think I'm gonna share that link maybe here as well, because so many times, and we say it here a lot, it's the sights, sounds, and sensations that really bring on those bodily feelings of overwhelm and dread. And one of the things for Tracy was, well, I'm really comfortable on a Boeing airplane. Now I got to fly on an Airbus, and they make different noises. And Mentor
It's because they're French, right, Eric? It speaks French.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
That's correct.
Well, that would be
The
an interesting one.
Boeing, our little jet engine, the tail, we call the APU, the auxiliary power unit.
Yeah.
But in French, you pronounce that épu,
Ooh.
but it's the same thing.
So
And
and
that's
we
why it's barking.
we're going to start to get some outside guests in here, and I was thinking about seeing if we can't get that fella. I think he works for he's from New Zealand, I believe, and he does a really nice job on YouTube with talking about various phenomena in flight there. So anyway, all right, Bart, any questions? Any more questions or anything? If not,
No, just that there's already some interest here.
okay,
So,
all right, yeah,
Yeah,
It doesn't
we'll
take a
get
huge-
that together, that questionnaire, and we'll send it out next week. We're probably also gonna post it as well. So
Yeah, and this was from Sosi, was the one that made me get off dead center there. So Sosi, this is for you. We're gonna see if we can't put something together. So anyway, so let me thank Dieter and Eric, and especially our special guest Colleen O'Connor. Thank you again, Colleen, for coming on and bearing your soul and sharing your experiences here, because that is really what gives us this sense of community, which is when you go fly with people, flying in a group, really you see how important it is to connect with other people out there, to know that you're not alone and you're not the only one. So thanks, Colleen, for sharing your story with us and being so vulnerable. All right.
Can I tell you one other thing? There was one night where I was able to be a part of your class for a while.
Oh yeah.
And seeing so many other people online, men and women, who experience the same fears, that was really helpful, because so often I feel among my group of family and friends that I'm the only one, which I
Right.
am among them.
Right.
And so it really was reassuring to know that I'm not alone.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
thanks again. Thanks all of you for watching every week. And that's going to wind up this episode, and we'll see you back again next week for another episode of Fearless Flight Live. Thanks a lot.